We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello again, I'm John Gidley, and welcome to another trip into the football attic. Today we're going to talk about a star-crossed running back from the early 1970s by the name of Dave Hampton, who twice came up agonizingly short in his pursuit of 1,000 rushing yards in a single season. First, a little backstory. Running for 1,000 yards in a single season used to be a pretty big deal in the NFL. It makes sense when you consider that there were fewer regular season games in which to pull it off. During the 1950s, the NFL regular season lasted 12 games. If you ran for 1,000 yards in a dozen games, it means you averaged 83 yards per game. Even when the schedule expanded to 14 games in 1961, it was still an impressive tally. The Atlanta Falcons were a team that took quite a long time to feature a 1,000-yard running back. Founded in 1966, the Falcons started out slow, as most expansion teams do. They only won 6 of their first 42 games. Atlanta rarely showed any semblance of offense in those early years. Case in point, over their first 6 seasons, the most rushing yards a Falcons running back tallied in a single season was 722, achieved by Junior Coffey in both 1966 and 67. In the 1972 offseason, Atlanta signed running back Dave Hampton. Hampton was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 9th round of the 1969 draft out of the University of Wyoming. In his rookie year, Hampton played well, scoring 4 rushing touchdowns, the same total as Green Bay's starting running back Travis Williams. In 1970, Hampton only played in 6 games, tallying just over 100 yards with no scores. He played a full slate in 1971 and scored 3 touchdowns, but his carries were dwarfed by the tandem of Donnie Anderson and rookie John Brockington, who combined to run for over 1,800 yards and 9 touchdowns. A change of scenery, however, was all that Hampton needed. The best game of Hampton's career came on October 1st, 1972, when the Falcons hosted the Los Angeles Rams. He ran for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns in an easy 31-3 win for Atlanta. Although he wouldn't come close to duplicating that single-game effort, Hampton played methodically the rest of the year. By the season finale, he was right on the doorstep of becoming the first 1,000-yard rusher in Falcons franchise history, needing only 70 yards to reach the mark. Their final game was at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was such a big occasion that NBC's lead announcing team, Kurt Gowdy and Al DeRogatis, were on hand. Okay, truth be told, Dave Hampton probably wasn't the reason why they were there. It had more to do with the fact that they had called a Colts-Dolphins game in Miami the previous day, and a game in Atlanta the next day didn't require a lot of traveling. In the middle of the fourth quarter, sitting at 999 yards, Hampton got the 1 yard he needed. It was at this point that you would have thought the Falcons won the Super Bowl. The sellout crowd at Atlanta Stadium rose to give Hampton a standing ovation. His teammates came onto the field to congratulate him. Get this, they even stopped the game for a midfield ceremony in which Hampton was given a trophy and the game ball as Atlanta's first ever 1,000-yard runner, all while there was still time left in the game. The next time the Falcons had the ball, disaster struck. With a game-time temperature of only 33 degrees, there were some icy patches on the field. Quarterback Bob Berry unfortunately found one of those icy patches while trying to pitch the ball to Hampton. He got it away, but Hampton was tackled for a 6-yard loss. His 1,000-yard total was suddenly down to 994. Even worse, the Chiefs took up most of the remaining minutes with what turned out to be a game-winning drive. With time running out, the Falcons couldn't afford to run the ball. Hampton got just 1 more carry and gained only 1 more yard. After all the pomp and circumstance, a 1,000-yard season was not to be. Hampton's final tally in 1972 was 995 rushing yards. Fortunately for Dave Hampton, he was young, and he still had a lot of playing time ahead of him. 1973 was a brand new year. He started that year by running for 104 yards in the Falcons' 62-7 opening day humiliation of the Saints in New Orleans. Hampton would reach that triple-digit total twice more in 73, running for exactly 100 yards on October 28th in San Francisco, and 108 at home on November 19th in a Monday Night Football upset of the mighty Minnesota Vikings. With 4 games to play, Hampton had 750 rushing yards. His next 3 performances, however, were lackluster. 65 yards in a win at the Jets, and only 49 yards in consecutive games, both home losses to the Bills and Cardinals. In the Falcons' season finale at home against the Saints, Hampton needed 87 yards to, once again, try and become Atlanta's first 1,000-yard rusher. He was right on the doorstep yet again late in the game, and was handed the ball on 6 straight plays, but yet again, it wasn't enough. When the whistle sounded, Hampton had run for only 84 yards. His final rushing total in 1973, 997 yards. If it was any consolation, his pursuit the second time around wasn't as high profile, since it occurred on the same day that O.J. Simpson became the first player in NFL history to run for 2,000 yards in a single season. In the 1974 offseason, fate reared its ugly head again when Hampton suffered an injury at training camp, sidelining him for the first 5 games of the regular season. He ran for 464 yards in 9 games. Despite missing 5 games, he still led Atlanta in rushing, as the Falcons' offense wasn't just the worst in the NFL in 1974, it was one of the worst in NFL history. They scored only 111 points all season. That's 7 per game. The 3 quarterbacks Atlanta used that year, Bob Lee, Pat Sullivan, and Kim McQuilkin, combined to throw only 4 touchdown passes and 31 interceptions. At this point, most others would be ready to give up, but Dave Hampton knew that 1,000 yards was a goal he had to reach. On opening day 1975, despite the Falcons losing in St. Louis, Hampton ran for 135 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. The next week, he ran for 101 yards in a home win over the Saints. Later in the season, he tallied 106 in a home win over the Broncos. Through the first 13 games of the 1975 season, Hampton had 941 rushing yards. He needed 59 in that last game to finally get to 1,000. Ironically, the Falcons ended the year in Green Bay against Hampton's old team. It's here that you might expect me to say that he finished the game with only 57 yards, but as the old adage goes, the third time was the charm. Hampton ran for 61 yards, and even though it was by the slimmest of margins at 1,002, he still did it. After coming up short twice before and having been injured another time, in 1975, Dave Hampton became the first Atlanta Falcons running back ever to rush for 1,000 yards in a single season. Naturally, he was the recipient of that season's Comeback Player of the Year award. With the monkey finally off his back, Hampton only played 1 more season. After playing just 3 games for the Falcons in 1976, he was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, retiring at year's end. Almost 50 years later, Hampton is still one of only 11 running backs in Atlanta franchise history to end a season with 1,000 rushing yards. Thanks for joining me for this trip into the football attic, and I hope to see you again next week. In the meantime, check out all the other great podcasts here on the Sports History Network, and follow me on Twitter at JFG Sports. Until next time, this is John Gidley.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We at the Sports History Network are thrilled to work with our sponsors and partners. With their support, we are able to produce great content for you. The other cool thing is most of our sponsors and partners offer discounts to pass along to our fans. So if you go to the sportshistorynetwork.com/sponsors page, you'll find Row 1, Royal Retros, Play Classic, Thrive Fantasy, and Mega Seats. All of these offer great discounts. Specifically at Row 1, you can save 15% at the Row 1 Gallery with the code SHN. The Row 1 Gallery includes over 5,200 reproduced sports history prints on a variety of sizes of wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. The Row 1 shop also has thousands of more unique items with retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts and long-sleeve shirts, phone cases and mugs, blankets and pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. With Royal Retros, they're the king of throwbacks. They've got jerseys, shirts, hats, collectibles, and more from defunct leagues and other teams in those leagues. From Play Classic Games, it's sports simulation board games. Just use the code SHN for 10% off your first order. From Thrive Fantasy, it's a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. Use the promo code SHN for instant 100% match up to $100. And with Mega Seats, they're tickets with no fees. You can save up to 10% with the code SHN. So check them out on the sportshistorynetwork.com sponsors page. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/sponsors. The soundtrack is provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.